we're back. So we created this main stage, right? Now we want to get into some content areas, right? And we'll start working down the page from there. So main stage is done. Now I need an area that is going to hold 3 cards, right? That are going to be lined up side by side horizontally, right? And each one of them is going to have some content inside of the card with an image in the background. Cool. So in order to do that, we have to create a new section, right? Because we've got our main stage now. So that's that top section. So now I'm going to go into this area again where it has the plus, and I'm going to click that. I'm going to click Flexbox, and I'm going to choose my direction row structure. All right. So now I have a whole new container that's in here, right? And we'll call this 3 cards. Okay. So once again, we know we're going to have 3 cards, right? We know that we want to do 3, but let's get so we could add 3 cards in here right away, right? And be done, and then create each one of them over and over again, and that would work perfectly fine. But instead, let's streamline our work process a little bit, right? So we know that each card is going to be identical, except for the actual content that's inside of it, right? But we do know that the structure and the build and the styling of it, they're all going to be the same. So what we're going to do is we're going to create 1 card, and then we're going to duplicate that 2 more times within the container. Okay, so we've got our 3 cards. We need to create a container for our cards, for our new cards, right? So that's gonna go inside of this. So with 3 cards selected, we are going to come up to our left. We're going to add an element, right? And I'm going to click on container. So now I have a container inside of my 3 cards area. Yeah. From here now, I can start to add the content that I want inside of there. So we can name this card 1 for now, just so we know what this is going to be. So what did I say? I said I wanted a card that's going to have an image in the background and then some text on the inside of it. Yeah, so we can do it that way. Actually, you know what? Let's change it, because we've already kind of done that up here. So you already know how to do the text with the card inside of it. So what we're going to do is we're going to create a card that's got an image up top and then text underneath, and it's all going to be inside of a container as well, right? So bear with me on this one. All right, so we've got card 1. So inside of card 1, I'm going to need an image, and I'm going to need a heading, and I'm going to need a button, okay? So in order to do that, we're going to go and select card 1, right? With that highlighted, we can either hit the plus in here or we hit the plus here. So I know that inside of this, I want to add an image, okay? This image is going to come in. It's going to be massive. It's just going to be, it is what it is for now until we start styling this a little bit more. You can actually change this up a little bit. You can make it a medium. You can do all kinds of different things, but it's just going to come in as like the large. It's going to be what it is. So you can add now an image to this just so you have something to work off of, right? I'm going to stick with the nature theme. I'm going to select that. I've got this here. It's this massive image, right? I want to drop it down to medium, 300 by 300, right? So now I've got a good size on that. I know that that's good for me. All right, so there's my image. That's now in there, okay? So I've got a card, and inside of that card, I've got an image. But I need more. I need a headline, a heading, right? So I'm going to come over to my add element, and once I go down into my widgets, I'm going to add a heading, okay? Now notice this heading, I mean, it's spanning the whole width of this card. It's just because we only have one of these in here right now, all right? We will change this a little bit later. Once we have that there, I know I need a button, all right? Once again, add element, bring up our widgets bar, click button, and now I've got a button. So now I've got an image, I've got a heading, and I've got a button. All right. Now I can start actually building this card out and spacing some things out. So from here, what I want to do is I want to change the padding of the overall container, right? So that we know now, if you see with card 1 highlighted, the image is smashed all the way to the top, the button smashed all the way to the bottom, the text and the button are, kind of hugging the container edge over here on the left. I want to actually make some padding and some distance around these that's equal, right? So what I want to do is I want to come in here, I want to select card 1 over in advanced. I want to add at least 25 pixels of padding around these whole cards, right? So I want the image to at least be 25 pixels off of the edge. I want at least 25 pixels of spacing, right, top to bottom of the card. And as far as the text and the button is concerned, I want the same. All right, so now everything is spaced out appropriately from an overall standpoint. Now, right, I want my text, my heading, and my button, I want these to be a little farther away from the actual image itself, right? So I'm going to choose my heading. I'm going to go over to advanced, and I'm going to add some margin to the top of that, okay? I'm going to click to unlink all the values, and I just want to add maybe another, we'll say 20. So 20 pixels of margin right here. Okay, so that's always going to be 20 pixels from the top of the text to this area. Okay, there's already a default setting in here that keeps everything 10 pixels apart. Okay, I'm just adding some more. As far as the or 20 pixels apart rather, sorry. I'm just adding a little bit more. So as far as the distance here, we've got 20 pixels between our button and our text as well. So if I know that no matter how many lines of text I have or whatever, I want some bottom padding or a bottom margin as well, I can adjust that also. So let's just say I want another 10 for the bottom, just so that it gives myself I give myself some breathing room here. So I'm going to do that. Okay. Once I've got all this, now that's my basic structure, right? Let's just say I know that my heading, right? I want that to be an H3. Notice how my text shrinks, right? We'll just even go down to H4. So notice how the text shrinks there, right? So I know that that's going to be an H4 size. I've got my button, so I know my button is good to go. I've got my image. I know my image is good to go in the size, right? Now I just need to recreate this because I need 2 more of these cards that are identical. I just need to be able to change the image, change this, and change whatever the button link is, right? I can do that from here. So now I'll select card 1. I'll just collapse it just so there's no confusion, right? And with card 1 selected, I'm going to go to my keyboard and I'm going to hit Command D. And that is going to duplicate that card. Okay? I'm going to do it one more time. So I'm going to do it a different way. So if I go up to the second card that we just created and I right click, I bring up a menu here, right? I have the option to duplicate. I'm going to hit duplicate. And now I've got 3 cards. Cool. So now as this is in here, I'm also noticing, right, I've got my containers. I've got 3 different containers that are each cards. I can go in now and appropriately name what's what, right? So instead of card 1, that's going to be card 2. And that'll be card 3. So now I have card 1, card 2, and card 3. Okay. Now I can go in and I can start fine tuning this a little bit. Let's just say medium 300 by 300 just isn't working for me, right? Because it's not actually doing what I needed to do there. I can do medium large, right? So now it's actually spanning the width of that. So it's actually going to take up the space. You also have the ability to do a custom size if you want. So if you know exactly what your design is calling for when it comes to the image, right, it can do that. But I'm just going to go in here in each one and I'm going to change it out. So now we've got these 3 cards, right? And they each are kind of equally spaced out. If I want now to give it a little bit more depth, let's just say each one of these cards is going to have a stroke or an outline on it. Yeah. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to select card 1. I'm going to go to Style, where the border drop down is, right? I'm going to create that. Border type, I'm going to choose, there's all kinds of different ones you can choose. I'm going to choose solid. Okay. My border color, I want to pick a light gray. All right. I can choose my border width. So I want it to be 2 pixels. And then if I want a border radius, like if I want the border to be rounded, I can do it here, right? I can choose that from there. I'm actually just going to stay with 0 for now. Well, we'll keep it going so you can see what it is. I'll do 20. All right. So now look what we got. I'll select this just so you can see it clean. So now you can see, right? We've got a border radius, we've got a card, we've got an image inside of it. Everything is equally spaced out around it. We've got our heading, we've got our left align button, right? If you wanted to, you could center this button, you could center this text by, changing the settings there and the styling and the layout actually for both of these. You can also actually do it by clicking our card again, and in the layout, right, you can make sure that everything aligns vertical, right? You've already set your padding for top and bottom, so everything's going to kind of equally line up that way. And then where it says, so for justify content, I mean, you can still click center if you want to, so it'll just make sure that it always stays centered no matter what. And then for align items, if you click center, right, everything inside of this container is going to hold a center alignment now, regardless of padding or margin. So you don't have to set padding and margin for these, right, or sizing or whatever. It's just going to automatically center align those items, right? Or you can do start, you can do end, right? Or you can do stretch, so that these actual containers will stretch the width of the container itself, right? So we're just going to do start for now. And if you notice, once I go back to start, the container size for each one of these changes. So now the button is just the size, the container of the button is just the size of the button itself, and the container of the text is just the size of the text itself, right? And it'll grow and shrink with whatever you put in here. That's all well and good, right? But now we need to make it happen to the other 2. Well, that's annoying. What if I made more than just one change? What if I said, you know what, I changed the border, I changed background styles, I changed all kinds of stuff in here, right? That's fine, no big deal. We can take card 2, and I'll command click card 3, and we can just delete them, right? But oh no, this grows again. That's okay. We already know that this was already set to what we wanted it to be, right? So now that those 2 are done, this has all the changes that I made. I can select this, I can command D, and then I can command D again. And now I have 3 cards with a border and any other changes that I've made, and it's all still in the same lineup because I've already kind of set the parameters for everything else. Cool. So from here, now, the only thing I really want to do is I want to change the spacing of the overall container itself, because these cards now are just smashed right up against my main stage. I need some breathing room here. I want something that's in here, so that these cards aren't right up against everything. So I'm going to select my 3 cards container, right? And with that selected, I'm going to add some padding to this container. I want top and bottom padding. So I'm going to unclick so we don't link the values together, so we're not putting all kinds of padding on all sides. I want top, I'm going to add, let's say 100. And then bottom, I'm going to add 100 as well. So now I have 100 pixels top and bottom of padding between all of this. All right. But let's say now that I think this section needs a heading, right? Let's just say we show this to the client's like, looks great, like the cards, I need a heading in this section. All right, cool. We can do that. Super easy. So we're just going to come up here, we're going to select the 3 cards section, right, which is this overall container right here. We're going to go up to add element, and then we are going to add a heading. All right. Oh no. What happened? All right, so this is set up to be row horizontal, right? So any new element that you put in here is going to be set up as a horizontal element. So this is the conundrum sometimes that we run into. This is the problem that we run into sometimes. So anything new that you add to this 3 card section, right, is now going to be set up as a horizontal element here. It's going to come in right after these cards. And we don't want that. We want it to be its own element up top right here, right? So we can do this in a couple different ways, right? So let's delete this heading real quick. If you select a single item, you can hit the delete key on your keyboard, or you can right click. And I'll show you how to do that. I'm going to command, maybe it's not going to bring it back up. So if I right click here, you can see where it's the delete is down at the bottom, right? Or you can actually, like I said, you can actually click it and hit the delete key on your keyboard, and that'll work just as fine too. But what we've got here is we've got a bit of an issue, right? So we want these cards to be horizontally stacked, and we want them to be fine, yeah? But now we need to add a title to this section. But we don't want that title to be horizontal. We want it to be on top of these. So we have to change the overall structure of this container, right, of the parent container. So now we need this to be vertical, right? But that changes everything else here. Okay. Well, let's try this then. So we need to actually create another container in here that is going to hold all 3 of these. Let me see. I'm going to see if this works. It may or may not. No, it's not going to. All right, that's fine. No big deal. Instead, what we will do is we will click our 3 cards. All right. We are going to add a container. All right. So now we have this container. This container right here, we are going to set this to be direction horizontal, row horizontal, all right? And we are going to open this up, and we're going to take these cards and we're going to drag them down so that they now seat inside of this container, all right? So I'm going to take this one, all right? You can see how it adjusts and seats inside. And I'm going to take this one, and I'm going to do the same thing. All right. So now we have this overall container, yeah, for our 3 cards, and we have that set as direction vertical. But now we've created a new container inside of that that is going to be for the cards. So we've got the 3 card section. We've got a container that houses card 1, card 2, and card 3, which we have to rename yet. So we're going to name this, I'll just name it horizontal card container because that's what it is. So now these will display properly, right? And then when we shrink them down to mobile, they'll actually rearrange and stack properly. But now, if I want to add my title in here, my heading, what I can do is now with 3 cards selected, I can go over, open up my add element. Here's my widgets, add a heading. It's going to come in underneath those cards, so I can rearrange it in here so it's on top. But now I have a heading that's on top, right? And then everything in here stacks vertically. So there you go. So I'll change the name of this real quick to 3 cards. I can do whatever I want to as far as like padding and margin goes. So if I want some extra margin on the bottom of that, it's a little bit more space. Let's say I'll add about 20 more pixels there. So now I've got this section, right? Our 3 card section. This is spaced out properly from a vertical standpoint. This is spaced out properly from a vertical standpoint, like on the bottom. I've got this all stacking on top of each other, but then I have this section here that's got all 3 of my cards side by side the right way, right? I'm going to go in and I'm going to rename these. So this is going to be card 2, and that's going to be card 3. So there we go. So when you are laying these things out, right, sometimes things change on the fly, designs will change on the fly, and you have to be prepared for that. If at all possible, though, you have to really think about the structure of things and how everything is going to play out when you're building these sections out, right? So you need to know how things are going to stack and interact and how they need to be. It gets to be a little crazy with the amount of containers inside of containers sometimes, right? And you'll see that as we kind of move down into the next section. But it's really, really helpful to make sure that you get like your basic structure down first, and then you can kind of start to style from there, right? Before you get too far ahead. So, and you know, as far as the cards go, it's always beneficial to work smarter, not harder, right? Don't be afraid to duplicate things once you have the structure done, because again, these cards are the same. So now all I need to do is I can change the type here, right, to Cairn. And then on this side, I don't want this to be the same picture, obviously. So if I select the image, I can come over here, I can choose image, and I can change it out to the city, right? And then now the city populates there. Everything else stays the same. Nothing else moves, right? The positioning is still the same. The image size is still the same. Padding, margin, all that kind of stuff is still the same. But now the image has changed, right? So I come in here. I want to change the text. I'll change it to city, right? And there we go. And there's my 1, 2, 3 cards, right? And then I can actually go through and do the same thing here, right? Change the image, change the text, do whatever I want. But it's always nice to kind of, as you're working through certain things in areas where you know you're going to duplicate certain styles and certain interactions and stuff, is set it all up once, right? Get like the basic of it, and then you can kind of add some placeholders so that you can see the sizing and work everything properly. But get all your interactions done. Like, so if I added like a hover state, it would, you know, I would have that in there with the border, with everything else. And then that way you can just kind of take that you've already done all of this work to and have all these interactions in, and then you can just duplicate it so you don't have to go into each one of these and set everything up individually, right? It is nice to be able to kind of copy paste some of that stuff. So you're always trying to find the repeatable, repeatable results when you're doing this kind of stuff. So So that's how you do the kind of 3-up section, right? And how you lay everything out that way. So now we've got our main stage, we've got kind of a 3-up, and then our third section that I'm going to show you today is going to be it's going to be similar to what we did here and how we set it up, but instead of having stacked content, we're going to have side-by-side content, and then I'm going to show you how to set a background color in that section as well, and have some other elements going on. So, all right, we'll see you here in part 3.